Hello and welcome everyone to today's tutorial on learning C++ from the scratch. Today, we are going to talk about overloading in C++. So what is function overloading? Well, function overloading is a method or way to create multiple functions with the same name. Well, right now at this moment, if we have one function that is called save phone number and try to run our program, as you can see, it's working fine without any problem. But if we create another function, like a second function, with the same name as you can see over here, and try to run our program again, it's not going to work. As you can see, it's going to throw an error on this line over here because we create another function with the same name that are already defined before. And that is because when we are in our main and trying to call the function save phone number, it's getting confused. Like it can see that there are two functions called save phone number and don't know which one to call. And to solve this problem, we can just change the name of the second function and it will work, as you can see over here. Or the another way is today's lesson, which is called the overloading. So what is overloading? Well, overloading is simply changing either the type of the parameters over here or increasing our parameters number. Like here, if we have another one, like let's call it int pn2, so we create another parameter. Now our program will work without any problem, as you can see over here. But before, when we have like one parameter which is quite similar to the one up over here, it will not work, as you can see. But when we increase the parameter, now it's working fine. Well, why? Because here, this function have two parameters, but this function only have one parameter. So if we get over here and pass one parameter only, it will see, oh, I only have a one argument, so I am going to call the function that have only one parameter. Like, let's call this the number pn. I'm going to put here 1, and I'm going to put here 2. Now, when we pass one arguments over here, it's going to call the one with one parameter. Where if we run our program, as you can see, the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is saved successfully. But if we call a function and give it two values or two arguments instead of one, now it will understand automatically that we are trying to use the function that have two parameter instead of one parameter. As you can see over here, now what it called is not the first function. It called a function that say the number 2. Why? Because we are passing two value over here. We have two arguments over here. So it automatically understands that we are trying to use the function with two arguments. So that is simply what we call overloading, where we can create multiple functions with the same name by changing either the parameter numbers, so this is like the first condition, or this will not work, right? Because here we have only one parameter and we have here one parameter. Or instead of changing the numbers of parameter over here, we can change the type of our parameter. So like the second one, let's consider it as a string, okay? Now, here, what is this? Is this a string or a number? This is a number. So, it will understand automatically that we are trying to call a function that have an integer type parameter. So, if we run our program, it will work fine. Number 1. Number 1 means the first function. But if you convert this into a string, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or whatever, and try to run our program, now it will use the second function. Because what we pass here is a string, not a number anymore. And it will look for a function that have a string as a parameter between the function that we have over here. And also, that's not the only way we can use method overloading. What we can do is create another function, for example, and give it two parameters. The first one is string, and the second one is, for example, int pn2, for example. Now, this one, if you have here an arguments, and the first argument is a string, and the second one is number, it will call the third function over here. So let's run our program. As you can see, it called the third program. So what I want to talk about is that if we have another function over here with two parameters, and instead of starting with a string, we start with the integer, and the second one is a string. As you can see, this one now is different from this one, where here we are getting first a string and then second a number. But here we start with a number and then follow it by a string. So when it see that we start with a string over here and follow it by a number, it will call the third one over here. As you can see, the third one. But if we change the order, like we start with number, for example, now it will call the fourth one, as you can see over here. So what is function overloading? Function overloading is a way to create two or more functions with the same name. Like as you can see over here, all these functions have the same name, which is solve equation 1, solve equation 1, solve equation 1, which is impossible without the overloading. Well, it will throw an error if we didn't use the overloading method. So, how can we use overloading? Well, there are several ways to do that. The first way is by having different numbers of parameter in each function. Like for example, we can create our first function over here, which called solve equation 1 without any parameter. So it has 0 parameter. And the second one can have 1 parameter. So the number of parameters in these two functions are different. Or maybe we can have the first function only have 1 parameter, but the second function can have 2 parameter. So this is the first way that we can use overloading to create multiple functions with the same name. And the second way is by creating different parameters type for each function. Where when we are creating parameter, we have here the first parameter called int n1. It have a type. This one can accept an integer type data, but we can make the another function accept different type of data, which in this case, this one can accept float data type. So we can also achieve overloading by making each function have different parameter types. And the third way is by changing the order of parameters types. So for example, if we have two functions, these two functions accept two parameters. And before we talk about that, we can have different number of parameters. But here we have equal numbers of parameters. This one have 2 and this one have 2 parameters. The first one order is different, like the order of the types. This one first will accept an integer type and then second will accept a float type. But the second function over here will first accept a float type and then follow it by integer type. So as you can see, we change the order of the parameter type. So this is the third way we can achieve function overloading. And the fourth way, of course, is by using a combination of these three over here. So we can change the types and the number of parameters. Like for example, as you can see here, we have two parameter, but its type is integer and the second one is integer as well. Here we also have two parameter, but the types of data that we are accepting are different. And then we have third function, which is also called solve equation 1, but with different numbers of parameter. Like this one have 2 parameter, but this one have 1, 2, 3. So we can use combination of all these three over here to create multiple function using overloading. And I want to tell you something, a note that you need to focus on. We talk here about that we can change the type of our parameter so that we can achieve overloading. We change the type of a parameter to achieve overloading, like this one over here. This one is a double, but this is an int. But what people might think is that if we change the type of the function, not the parameter, the function itself, we can also achieve overloading and create two functions with the same name, like this one over here. As you can see, this is the first function. Our parameter numbers are same, int n1, and the type are same. But what we did change is the type of the function itself. This one return type is integer, but this one is void. This one is not gonna work. Like changing the type of the function is not an overloading. So I wish that was clear. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time.